But Cuba is beautiful. Look at that telenovela. Look at that news that they're showing. That's the importance of this TV. But the TV industry is costly. It has to be costly. You know that in the 50s, Cuba was very advanced on TV. And again, this has to be private. Might be some regulations of if you establish a TV station, what percentage should be owned by Cubans, what percentage can be owned by foreigners, because you cannot allow to have everything on TV in Cuba owned by companies from outside that doesn't represent the Cuban people. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
We will have two more presentations on this session, and then we'll open for question and answers. I would like to bring to the podium Joaquin Jake Perez. Has over 31 years of experience in transportation and structural engineering projects, including airport, mass transit, highway, bridges, and he will be talking specifically about the issues of the bridges in Cuba. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Joaquin Perez. I am Cuban. I was born in La Habana, Cuba. We lived in Camagüey, and I've been living here in exile for 52 years. My presentation today is on the assessment for the reconstruction of the bridges in Cuba. I want to recognize that there's been several studies done in the transportation assessment in general. One done by Dr. Cerejo, the Cuban Economy for a Blueprint of Reconstruction, where Dr. Cerejo was the organizer of that. And also recently a transportation infrastructure assessment done by Carlos Penin and Sergio Alfonso. The study encompassed all modes of transportation: highways, airports, railroads, seaports, and mass transit. Our presentation today will focus on a vital component of the highway and railroad system, and that is the bridges that links everything together. Bridges are a vital link for transporting goods and services along highways and railways. Without an adequate transportation system, there is no opportunity for economic growth. It's an economic engine. This is the map of Cuba, their roadway system. It's just a snapshot of La Habana and just south of La Habana. Cuba has around 19,000 miles of unpaved road, about 18,000 miles of paved road, and about 569 miles of what they call a motorway or a limited access facility. The most known and oldest one, limited access facility, is the Carretera Central, which goes from Pinar del Rio to Santiago. They also have 7 more limited access facilities. All these limited access facilities, plus the paved and unpaved roads, total approximately 38,370 what they call centerline miles of road. They also have a railway system, around 5,100 miles of railway, and we'll have to consider the bridges on the railways as well. The first thing is to try to understand what condition they're in order to do an assessment for the reconstruction. We would have to inventory all the bridge structures, including the highways and the railroad bridges. Then we'd have to develop a reconstruction approach. Hopefully it's a program that will consider maintenance, repair, replacement, and then expansion for the future. It can be done in 3 phases. An initial phase in the first 2 to 5 years, which is mostly understanding what condition they're in, doing the inspections, and then doing any kind of emergency repair to get the system to operate. By then you establish a maintenance and rehabilitation program within the next 5 to 10 years, where you're constantly repairing and replacing the system to bring it up to standards. And then the final phase, which you would have started planning since the beginning, but now you start planning, now you start implementing new construction, new bridges, and replacement structures. In order to understand the economic impact of the reconstruction of the bridges, we'd have to compare it to the state of Florida. For example, geographically, we're pretty similar. Florida and Cuba. Cuba's a little thinner, Florida's a little fatter. But population-wise, there's about 19 million people in Florida. Cuba has about 12 million. Roadway center lines, Florida has 121,000. Cuba has 38,000. In conclusion, Florida has twice as many railroads per capita. I'm sorry, not railroads, roads per capita. So knowing that information and knowing that in Florida there's about 11,100 bridges, we can guesstimate that there's about 6,000 bridges in Cuba, including the 450 from the railroad bridges. We also know from Florida that the yearly maintenance cost is around $700 to $800 million a year. That includes replacement structures. So we assume about half of that would be Cuba's cost, about $350 million to $400 million per year in maintenance and replacement cost. Florida has a work program which totals $7.4 billion a year. Under that program, there's about $380 million for bridges, repairs, and replacement. And they also have a capacity improvement, which includes the new bridges, for $2.7 billion a year. But that also includes the roadways. But looking at the bridge repairs, $380 million, about half of that would be what we would assume would be required in Cuba, plus the $150 million in maintenance, equals about $350 million per year, or in the first 5 years, you're looking at about a $1.75 billion investment just to get the bridges running. In the first 10 years, there would be an average of about $400 million per year in maintenance and repairs, or a total of $4 billion of investment. After the initial 10 years, you'd still have to maintain the bridges. The cost with inflation would run about $400 to $500 million per year. Now you would bring in the capacity improvements, because now you're at year 11, so now you start building new structures, so the capacity improvements would require at least $300 to $350 million per year. Or you're looking at a total of about $700 million to $800 million per year to keep the system running and start adding new capacity to the system. All in all, you're looking then at an initial investment in the first 10 years of $4 billion and $700 to $800 million in maintenance and capacity improvements. And that's my presentation today.
Thank you very much, Joaquin Jake Perez. As you can see, an expert on transportation and structural engineering. And we will complete this session with a person that is a former graduate from the Naval Academy at Mariel in Cuba, a member of the Marina de Guerra of the Brigade 25 of 6 during the Bay of Pigs invasion, was an officer at the Fort Benning School, and has spent many years in this endeavor, and we welcome with a lot of pride Andrés Vázquez Ramirez.
Thank you. Hello everybody, I am Captain Andrés Vázquez. It's a pleasure to be with you here. We are going to talk about the reconstruction of the marine or naval maritime environment in Cuba. First, I would like to thank you, the Bacardi, for this opportunity. What you see there in the background, that is Club La Concha in Marinao, Cuba. That is an antique picture, and that is a lieutenant from the Cuban Naval Force. Cuba, or the Republic of Cuba, gentlemen, is not an island. The Republic of Cuba is an archipelago. It has one in around Isla de Pino. It has another one south of Camagüey, La Reina, north, between Matanzas y Santa Clara, the archipiélago Sabana Camagüey, and north in Pinar del Rio, el archipiélago Los Colorados, one of the most beautiful, beautiful places that I have seen in my life, because the water there is clear blue. And Cuba it has 4,000 miles. Consequently, the Republic of Cuba is an archipelago, and the main island is Cuba and Isla de Pino. This is just a reminder. The actual situation in Cuba is really bad. You can see by the excellent presentation that we have here before, and really is scary. A quick change in the political situation in Cuba is going to create chaos, a big mess. We cannot do anything by putting 100,000 containers of cargo in Mariel when we do not have the means of delivery. And to deliver each container, we need a truck, we need a flatbed, we need a driver, we need bridges, we need highway, or you use railroad. That is called the intermodal transportation. And on top of that, the people don't think about, you need a receiving point, somebody who needs that cargo. When that cargo is delivered by truck, like happened here in Miami, they give you 2 or 3 days to unload the container. If you don't do that, you will be charged money, a lot of money, because that container has to be moving, and that container is not owned by the Cuban government or by the Cuban-American Marine. It's owned by the company, the shipping company who sent it to Cuba. Consequently, that container had to be returned to Maria quickly and fast. Cuba is paying a lot of money at this time, in this moment, millions of dollars, because of that delay. Because the people who receive the cargo in there, they could care less, they take a long time, and they have to pay for that, unless you buy the container. The logistic is a nightmare. And I look to me that we need a master plan to rebuild Cuba, or it's not going to work. The Navy, or the Merchant Marine, in this case, it can provide the logistic and the transportation. But from the port to the point of delivery and return is a matter of the government. It requires a lot of coordination, and I see the need that we have in Cuba, presented by this gentleman. We have to plan how to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster. Okay, we are going to talk about rebuilding the Merchant Marine of Cuba, and remember, the marine or the maritime environment is your welcome door in Cuba. As soon as you get there, unless you go by plane, you are going to meet a pilot, you are going to be the security from the Navy, and the Merchant Marine is the gate that you enter to Cuba, and sometimes we don't consider how important it is. Okay, this is the step that we have to rebuild. It's hard to read from this point, but I think basically the gentleman before me had covered this subject. The last point to me is very important. Cuba needs a minister at the presidential level to consolidate all the maritime in Cuba, including the Navy, the Naval Air Force, the fishing fleet, the Merchant Marine, the port. All of that has to be at the minister level, directly with the president. I believe that Cuba has been turning his back to the sea for a long time. And the situation in Cuba economically is going to be terrible, it may be worse, and we never try to exploit the sea. And at the end, I believe that the Guantanamo base should be under control of the Cuban Navy and the U.S. Navy, and has a joint command, like it's done in España, in Roda. I have been in the naval base. Guantanamo is unbelievable great, and we should give it to use to the U.S. Navy for training purpose mainly, and maybe, I don't think so we can use anti-submarine right now, but smuggling and anti-terrorism will be free. And if I were the president of Cuba, I would not charge a penny to the U.S. Navy. But then we had to rebuild the Cuban Navy with modern ship and modern helicopter and create a very efficient work with the U.S. Navy. Next, let's talk about the port facility. I think you people have covered this before. You saved me the time to do it. But we need infrastructure. Unloading containers in a pier is the first step. You need warehouses. Sometimes you need warehouses with refrigeration. We need the electric power. Like Mr. Cerejo mentioned ago, we need communication, we need telephone, we need internet, we need control, we need planning. We have to know what we are doing, or the system is not going to work. And on top of it, we need money. I don't know where the money is going to come from Cuba. Cuba is in such a poverty right now. We will have to request around $25 billion to the U.S. government to begin the rebuilding. We need to request money to the World Bank, to the United Nations, to the banking OEA, FMI. Man, we are going to need a lot of money, billions of dollars. And I see giving telephone to the people, communication, the Cuban people have no way to pay for. It has become a country unproductive, don't generate dollars. The poder adquisitivo, the income is almost very near. They are making about $10 or $15 a month. And boy, I don't know where the money is coming. We lose the quota azucarera. We cannot export sugar like we used to do to the United States. Then you better, or the new government, start thinking about where is the money going to come to do all of this stuff. The mega port of Mariel. I am from Mariel. I have movie, I have a website, I have published in Mariel. They are doing a heavy investment. Brazil is taking this opportunity to build a nice port to eventually, when the business open with the United States, be in a good position to beat anybody else. But Brazil can be accused of collaboration con la dictadura. And right now, the people who work there, they have to use the Cuban employee and the supervisor from Cuba. And they are paying $10 to $15 a month. And they are paying the Cuban government 20 times more. They really are looking for a problem, as far as I am concerned. I know that we cannot confiscate what the investment they are doing there. They invested $750 million. But they are transforming the port of Mariel, and on top of that, they are building a facility for oil exploration. Cuba has a great potential on oil they are looking for, and Mariel is going to be a port for that. Besides that, they are manufacturing plant. They expect to compete with China. And they have 2 or 3 problems. The main problem that they have is the embargo. Second is a lot of competition for the business from China when the Panama Canal is going to make a new canal with ship very, very large, with large capacity. And Mariel is supposed to be the main point, but it's a lot of competition. Miami is one of them. That is the future Navy. You see the letters ACE, AR, it means Search and Rescue Operation.